Hey everybody, it's Alan and Gus again. Say hey Gus. I hope you can hear me well because the wind's kind of blowing a little bit, but since we're not walking, it should be I should be more should be able to hear me better. But I wanted to talk a few minutes about one of my favorite subjects, uh, uh, religious stuff, I guess you could say. I'll go ahead and jump in, as they say. I think the Bible is a really good book. It's very interesting, and it can, be helpful in a lot of situations. But it's basically like some people say, to make a long story short, this and that. I think you could say to make a short story long and apply that phrase to the Bible, because if basically it has one narrative in it: love one another, and if you actually do have that love for one another inside of you and it's pure and genuine, then you don't have any need. I'm not knocking the Bible, just putting it at the forefront. Um, Said, love one another, feed, help the poor and the needy, love one another, love one. It's basic. I think there's a way, because humans have existed for so long on this planet. There's a way to exist as a human being that's use the word right or wrong. That's a loving way to be, where humans can interact with each other and have activities and be productive. And if they actually have love for one another, if the Bible didn't exist, there's a way for, like it's really simple. I've mentioned before, like Jesus said when they asked him what's the most important commandment, and he said, to love one another. You have to do that. Love yourself, of course. Love, put God first. But if you have actual love in your heart, you'll do it in a responsible way. Then none of these other commandments or rules or anything would have to apply. And furthermore, as the human condition is so much more than can be put into a book. I think, like in the Old Testament, there's a lot of emphasis on the sacrificing of animals and this and that. And if nothing else, you could back up, making a short story long. People don't appreciate what it is for something to give its life in order for you to continue having life. For example, if you go to a restaurant and get a hamburger, the patty that's on that hamburger or the ground beef doesn't even remotely resemble the living creature and anything that's alive. God gives life to everything that sacrificed its life in order for you to continue your life, whether it's healthy or not. And if it's fast food, it's probably not that healthy. And but all the different ceremonies and stuff. And if you look in the Old Testament, it just emphasizes basically it's almost like a loop of different rituals and routines until people finally get it or something like that. Like to appreciate life, because all life comes from God. Everything is made by God. But yeah, the Bible. I just don't get it off track. Bear with me. It's it's basically to taking a short story and making it long. You could make the Bible in one sentence: love one another. People say that all the time. I don't think most people understand what it actually means. You, of course, have to love yourself first. Love the Lord thy God, your own life. And if you have that pure love, then you'll be able to show it to others and practice it on others. When people walk around with a Bible, again, I've experienced a lot of this, and not every case, it's case by case thing. Everybody's different, but I'm just touching on things that I don't think are spoke about nearly enough. If you get if a missionary or a witness or a preacher man or whatever takes a stroll down Skid Row, where there's people lined up and down the streets living in tents, and the same clothes for weeks or months on end, and he's got nice clothes and nice hair and a vehicle and this and that. It's going to be more difficult for the people that he's trying to witness to or convert over to take him serious. And again, if this is speaking to people who actually claim to be serious about their work when they work for God or whatever, it's going to be a lot less. It's going to be more difficult for people, unless they're hung up, to take that person serious, because I know, at least in my experience, I'd see someone walking around, the Bible and this and that, and myself, for a lot of people, especially in uh, um, less convenient situations than that person are going to look at that preacher man and think, would you still be carrying that Bible and acting and saying everything that you're doing, quoting scriptures, if you were pulled out of your nice, comfortable life and placed out here with us in the slums? You know, that's a human instinct, whether people realize it or not. There's that blockade there that in a lot of cases, I know at least me, I've felt that way, and it makes sense to me. And you never know. I mean, it's every single human being. We're all the same, but all of our situations are different. There's no difference between us whatsoever, just the situation that we're put in. And you know, if someone's these witnesses and deacons and stuff, they go, you know, they're coming around the corner and they're, you know, they go to approach a homeless person or someone that's having a hard time, and let's talk about that homeless person for a while. Let's say he just got off the bottle. He's, you know, 50, 60 years old and done nothing but drink all of his life, and is actually got down to where, or where he even drinks just a little bit, but he's used like, you know, marijuana or something like that in small amounts to somewhat, you know, because I've spoke about in addiction videos before, it's a lot more, makes more sense to do a subtle change than a flip. And again, everybody's different. But if that guy's, you know, just quit, you know, finally got off the bottle or super hard drugs and he's doing good, you know, smoking him a couple of joints a day, and the deacon comes by and sees him doing that, how long is that deacon going to be able to keep it together without telling him what he's doing wrong? And furthermore, that man will have an instinct to almost want to hide it if he sees somebody with a Bible. And I don't think that's right neither. It's like, oh, he's going to judge me. Like, oh, he's dressed nice, so he's going to super judge me. That's just that's not. I don't think that's cool. Everything's a case by case basis, and if you have a general boxed in idea of what God is and what the idea of Jesus is and what is right, and yeah, said it's you never know what somebody's going through. You never know, and it's like after a while, people forget that and they get caught up in their own lives or whatever and start judging. And judging is just not. I don't think it's a proper thing to do, and it's difficult to hear. How would I say? Yeah, I think yeah, the Bible is, and then if you introduce the Bible into a civilization of people whom already had genuine love, like you don't need the Bible. There's places on this planet where people have genuine love for one another and are not fake people, real people that's never even heard of it. So how is that possible? But if you introduce that to a civilization like that, it can be edifying, helpful. Said I love the Bible. It's a very interesting book, and I'm not saying I don't believe it. I think it's been misused. But if you introduce it to a civilization or a group of people whom don't have that love, just to go up to that group of people or civilization and say, well, the Bible says this, you're supposed to love, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Instead of being instructive, it becomes destructive. Now, again, I'm not saying that doesn't work. That's been the only route that any Christian people's taken that I know of. But I think the Bible should not be at the forefront of someone who's going out to try to save the world, to try to save souls. You know, whether it's because they're using it to threaten people, like, hey, you know, like you see that bonfire you're standing over, you know, fill of it. That hell's 7 times hotter than that. And I've heard stuff like that. And it's like, so you're telling me that when I die, I'm still gonna have human sensation to feel burn and stuff like that? When they using the scare tactics. I can remember as a kid how frightening that was when I first got introduced to some far out Pentecostal people. I was 5 or 6 years old and grew up with that stuff, and that's partially the reason that I feel passionate about the misuse of what could be called the Word of God. You know, but if you're going out to save the world and help people who need help, help the needy, and this and that, I'm not saying not to. I'm offering an option that hadn't been covered yet. It seems to me, or nowhere near enough, except for maybe back when Jesus walked around. Uh, Another way of looking at it, you know, like I said, and I'll probably say in all my videos, if you take somebody that claims to be a man of God, preacher, deacon, this and that, you know, say, all right, well, if you are, then what you're saying is that your number one job on here is to keep people from going to hell. If you go past a bar room, all them people's going to hell. How are you going to get through to them? You're going to go in there and threaten them with hell, or are you going to go in there and show love? Put that Bible away for a few minutes so we can be on a level playing field. And it's how you live your life. It can be brought out at times, in my opinion, on later down the road. But if that's what you introduce with, is like if you're a total stranger meeting another total stranger, if you're out witnessing to people, but yet instead of showing them your true character of how you behave and go throughout life, you're immediately pulling out a book and talking about somebody else. And whether that's right or wrong, what you're saying, or whatever, however you want to label it, it's how it's perceived from another stranger. Because it's like, wait a minute, who are you that's telling me this? It's that it's I think it's kind of messed up. And again, that technique might work. It seems to be the only route that's available. But threatening people, if God may look around here. Is there a single blade of grass, a single speck of dirt that you can pick up and say that God didn't make? If you go to walk down the sidewalk, find a rock, find anything and say, God didn't make that. Can you find an empty can on the side of the road, pick it up and say, God didn't make that? And then say, oh, give man the knowledge to make it. Well, where did the aluminum come from? Where did the man come from that made it? God made everything. It's the world's like a big little thing of Play-Doh or something like that. It's all in what you do with it. And when you start looking at other people, like, I'll never stop talking about this, like somebody who smokes pot or does anything for that matter, and start judging them right away because of, well, I've seen what it done before. I know what it's like to be this and that. It's not helpful because it's judging, I suppose. But oh goodness, yeah, I think it's I like to say you'd be better off burning it and watch how people react. I haven't seen anybody react, but I'm sure they will. If you're going to weaponize the thing, man, it's of no use. Where did there's a spirit that's amongst us that allows us to know, like a moral compass, as my brother would say, right and wrong and down. But it's on the most subtle level. It's on the most subtle level where this happens, not through these elaborate repeating of ancient texts and stuff. Again, I think it's useful and very interesting. But as far as to claim to be doing the work of God and actually showing people, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. His words were so plain that, is he talking about a different heaven or what? People are so worried about what's going to happen after they die that they cause disruptions here on this earth that God made, which should be a paradise. We've got everything we need. You can't find a single item or thing that he hadn't created. People emphasize too much, in judging others because they're worried about saving their own spiritual skin, if you will, and threatening others. But everyone looks past, right now, the present moment, the breath that God gives you, every heartbeat you have right now. Some people get this, some people might not. The present moment is what's overlooked. If you're telling people what they're doing is going to lead them to a bad place after they die, that's first off, nobody knows that. And if somebody says, and pulls out a Bible and says it says this and that, and I'm just like, what do you say to somebody like that? You're quoting something, nobody knows what happens after you die. Nobody can say. But when you start running your whole life and trying to recruit others to your faith or what have you on the guise of, or on the principle of, you need to do this because if you don't, when you die, you're going to be in big trouble. It's talking about the future, and it's overlooking the right now. Which again, the Bible I think says basically love one another, appreciate what you have, and if you're lucky enough to have good, meat and steaks and stuff, it mentions how wonderful it smells when they grill it, because every time they do a sacrifice, they're having a party, they barbecue it. It's giving appreciation because God gives life to the trees out here just as much as he gave life to every ox that was sacrificed in the Old Testament, to appreciate it better. And yeah, stuff like that. But I think there's not enough emphasis on the present moment as far as when it comes to church and what church and religion ought to be, because it's so focused on either the past, well, the Bible said back then this and that, or it's on the future. Well, if you don't do this and that, then that and this is going to happen. Always skipping over the right now. And when you skip over the right now, you're walking down the street and you go to witness to somebody and you see they've got a brown paper bag with a bottle in it. You assume they're drunk and you'll start talking condescending to them. If you don't point it out and say it, you'll still be like, if you don't get right and quit these ways, that you're going to be going to hell. That's bullshit. I think that's so damn stupid, and it's messed up. And I'm sure Jesus, who walks around everywhere and is always everything, has his arms crossed and saying, "Okay, it's." Uh, and it shouldn't be a difficult thing to just love one another. I think I'll do more videos. Thanks for getting this far. If you have, Gus is feeling better. I think he drank some water and ate a little bit this morning. For whomever is worried about that, that's one of my priorities, and I'm thankful for that. That took Gus went 2 days without eating or drinking anything. I don't know. I can't afford, like I said, to feed us or whatever. And even something like that, up until this morning when he ate and drank a little, I began to have the feeling of how much worse it could be. And then when he did eat and drink some, it was a relief. And you have to thank God for the small stuff. Sometimes I think he does things to remind us of how good that we actually have it. But the kingdom of heaven is right here and now. And furthermore, if you plan on getting any pearly gates or this and that once you die, I think the criteria for even considering something better in the afterlife would be to make this present life the paradise that it was created to be, and live in it like it's, with love, and make it heaven. The kingdom of heaven's within you. It's up to you every day, every second, to whether you're in heaven or hell. And if you start thinking about the future and whether it's trying to get to heaven or trying to avoid hell, either way, that's in the future. That's not right now. And that's how I feel about it. uh, what are we at? 17. I hope everybody remember to be nice to one another. I'm working on that myself. Uh, and I appreciate anyone who's listening. And I believe that's all this go around. Thanks.